I ease my car up the driveway, barely moving. My hands are clamped on the wheel. 6 months. That's how long it's been since I last put myself through this. The house hasn't changed, still that perfect brick colonial, the hedges trimmed like they're afraid of stepping out of line, white shutters, every window staring down at me. Judging. I sit for a second behind Harrison's Mercedes, check my makeup in the mirror. Not a smudge. Not a curl out of place. Gotta keep the armor on. Inside, the place smells like lemon polish and my mom's expensive perfume. I follow the clatter and voices to the dining room. There's Mom, Vivian Voss, hovering over the table, making a big deal out of where to put the silver spoons. She barely looks up when I walk in. "Leora, you're here," she says, like she just noticed a package on the doorstep. No hug. Not even a real hello. Just a request. "Would you put the water glasses out? Your father's almost done with the brisket." I nod and head to the china cabinet. The sideboard is covered in photos, Gideon's life on display like a trophy case. Gideon grinning at Harvard graduation. Gideon holding a plaque. Gideon shaking hands with the mayor. My face only shows up once, tucked in the corner. High school graduation. That's it. Dad comes out of the kitchen with a carving knife, cheeks red, looking way too pleased. "Sunday brisket's almost ready," he says, not really looking at me. He's wearing that kiss the cook apron Gideon gave him forever ago. "Smells wonderful," I lie, like always. Dad's brisket is legendary for how dry it is. No one says a word about it. Mom keeps circling the table, fussing with napkins. Gideon should be here any minute. He texted he's running late, something about a call with Tokyo. Of course. Gideon gets to be late. Gideon's time is precious. Right on cue, the front door swings open and Gideon storms in, loud as ever. "Hello, family." Navy suit, tailored to death, probably cost more than my rent. Even on Sunday, he looks like he's about to fire half a boardroom. Mom lights up. She actually hugs him. Dad thumps him on the back. "Sorry I'm late," Gideon says, pulling at his tie. "Had to wrap up the Kensington acquisition." Dad beams. That's my boy. Always closing deals. We all take our seats, Dad at the head, Mom on his right, Gideon on his left, me across from nobody, staring at the wall. Dad starts hacking at the brisket. Mom passes dishes like she's operating heavy machinery. "So, Gideon," Dad says, giving him the best slice, "how's life treating Atlanta's financial wunderkind?" Gideon laughs, takes the plate. "Can't complain. Just finished another funding round. 8 figures. He chews his brisket like he's pondering world domination. "Actually, I've been looking at some real estate." Mom perks up. "Oh? Where?" "West Paces. There's a modern place just listed. 5.8 million, all the bells and whistles. Floor-to-ceiling windows, floating staircase. Perfect bachelor pad." He waves his fork like he's pitching it on TV. Dad whistles. "That's prime territory. Touring it Tuesday. Should have an offer in by the end of the week," Gideon says, cutting into the meat. Mom and Dad look at each other, all proud. I poke at my food, try to swallow a mouthful of sawdust brisket. Then Mom finally turns to me. "How about you, Leora? How's that little online shop of yours?" I take a sip of water. "Actually, I've been house hunting too." There's a beat. Then all 3 of them burst out laughing. Gideon wipes his mouth with a napkin. "Good one, sis." Dad's grin fades. Now he looks worried. "Your little store is cute, Leora, but it's a hobby. Time for a real job." Mom tries to shush him, but she's not really trying. Gideon leans back, smirk and all. "Stick to your trinkets, sis. Leave the big moves to the adults." I keep my face blank. Gideon grabs his wine. "Actually, I've been looking at investing in a new e-commerce player. Nova Haven. That's the future. They're going to crush all the little hobby stores." And suddenly I'm back at 20, standing in Dad's study, clutching the business plan I'd spent weeks on. "What do you think?" I'd asked, heart pounding. Dad barely glanced at it before patting my head. "Cute, sweetheart." Meanwhile, Gideon just landed Goldman Sachs. Yeah, that night, I promised myself I'd never share my dreams with him again. After that, I spent years alone in the garage at 2 a.m., packing boxes. Lost my whole $75,000 life savings to a supplier who vanished, picked up 3 jobs just to scrape everything back together, kept up the lie that my business was just a little side thing. Now, Mom slides a store-bought pecan pie across the table. Have some dessert, dear. You're looking thin. I put on the same old smile, the one I learned to wear ages ago. It never reaches my eyes, but they've never noticed. They never do. If only they knew. Last year, Everbloom Collective cleared $42 million. The trinkets Gideon laughs at? They show up in design magazines and celebrity homes. My so-called hobby employs 62 people who actually respect me. I stand up. I should get going. Work tomorrow. Gideon snorts. Playing store. Meanwhile, we'll be talking real business. Mom hands me some leftovers, wrapped in foil. Since you probably don't cook much. I take them, smile again, say what I'm supposed to, and finally escape to my car. My hands are shaking on the steering wheel as I drive away. For the first time in years, something changes. I whisper into the empty car enough. I pick up my phone and call Julian. How was family dinner? He asks, already knowing. Gideon wants to buy a house on West Paces. $5.8 million. And? Julian waits. I want it. The words feel like breathing for the first time. The house? He asks. Yeah, and everything else they think I can't have. I can hear him smile through the phone. About time. It's time they learned what Trinkets can build, I say, hanging up as the road opens up ahead of me. The Everbloom Collective headquarters doesn't look like someone's hobby. It looks like success. Monday morning, Julian Hart stands in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows in Leora's downtown Atlanta office, taking in everything she's built. Modern white furniture, bold colors from the latest line, candles and vases, and pillows on floating shelves, every piece a quiet answer to anyone who ever called them trinkets. He turns to the desk. The quarterly reports tell the real story: consistent growth, profit margins that would make Gideon cry, projections shooting higher. 8 figures. Not a hobby. An empire. Behind Julian's desk, the wall says what Leora never told her family: magazine covers, awards, press clippings, home entrepreneur of the year, 30 under 30, retail disruptors, the future of home goods. The elevator dings. Leora walks in, still wearing last night's outfit. Her face has sharpened from polite daughter to something harder, more determined. How bad was it? Julian asks, though he already knows. Gideon's buying a house on West Paces. $5.8 million. She drops her purse on a chair. They laughed when I said I was house hunting too. Of course they did. Julian's never met the Vassas, but he's heard enough. He can't stand them. A staffer comes over with fabric swatches, hesitates at Leora's expression, then steps forward anyway. Sorry to interrupt, but the Milan samples just arrived. Thought you'd want to see them right away. Leora's whole vibe softens. Thanks, Amber. She runs her fingers across the fabric. These are perfect for spring. Schedule a meeting with production for tomorrow. Amber nods and leaves. That quick exchange says it all. Respect, not condescension. Trust, not doubt. 5 years, Julian says, picking up where they left off. 5 years we've been building this, and they still think you're playing store. Leora moves to the window, looking out over Atlanta. You know what gets me? Gideon mentioned investing in Nova Haven. Our biggest competitor. Julian winces. That's exactly. Leora turns to him. He's trying to crush my business, and he doesn't even know it's mine. Julian still remembers the first time he met Leora. Back then, he was a burned-out consultant, pretty cynical about everything. Leora, on the other hand, had this laser focus and big ideas. When she offered him the COO job, people told him he was nuts to ditch his 6-figure gig for some risky startup. All except Leora. She just looked at him and said, "The house on West Paces, you want it?" I can afford it. Not bragging, just stating a fact. Julian leans back on his desk, a little uneasy. But what happens when they find out? When Gideon sees his little sister outbid him? Leora walks over to the vision board where all their big plans are mapped out: growth charts, product launches, going global. She runs her fingers over their goals. I've spent years tiptoeing around their feelings, Julian. I'm done. Julian watches her, noticing something's changed. She's not the upset daughter from dinner anymore. She's the CEO who pulled an 8-figure company out of thin air, the woman who lost everything to a scam but didn't complain, just rebuilt. Leora isn't out for payback. Her voice is calm, steady. This is about knowing my own worth. Hiding my wins just encourages them to ignore me. You don't owe them anything, Julian says. No, she agrees, but I owe myself this. She turns, and you can see everything click into place behind her eyes. If Gideon wants that house as some kind of trophy, he'll have to find another one. This one's mine. Julian nods and grabs his laptop. Let me pull up the listing. Hours later, they're both still in the conference room, coffee cups everywhere. Julian has his sleeves rolled up, tie loose, scrolling through property details. Good news. It's not under contract yet. And the agent is Mary Holbrook. We donated to her charity auction last year. I can get us a tour tomorrow. Leora studies the sleek photos on the screen, glass walls, a staircase that floats, everything Gideon gushed about at dinner. The $5.8 million modern on West Paces, she says, each word sharp. The one Gideon wants. Buy it. All cash. Julian can't hide his grin. He looks like he's going to war and loving it. It's time, Leora. Let's show them what we can really build. They spend another hour hammering out details. They'll buy through an LLC to keep her name off the records, fast-track the closing, get the offer in before Gideon even blinks. For a second, Leora wavers. This will change everything with my family. Maybe that's overdue, Julian says, gentle but firm. She nods, steadies herself, and signs the offer letter. Send it first thing tomorrow, she says, already heading for the door. Julian watches her go, feeling a mix of pride and worry. The Vassas have no idea what's coming. Maybe Leora doesn't either. A week later, the realtor's heels echo on the marble as she leads us through the empty house. Her voice bounces off the walls. These rooms are about to be mine. Julian walks at my side, whispering little jokes that make me smile, even with everything on the line. All cash was genius, he says, nodding at that wild staircase. They accepted in hours. Your brother never had a shot. I run my hand along the marble countertops. This kitchen could feed a whole army. It wasn't even close. Gideon's tangled up with banks and family favors. I just wrote a check. Sunlight pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows, lighting up every inch of what Gideon wanted but couldn't have. $5.8 million of modern glass and steel, skyline views that make my chest tight, though I'd never admit it. The sellers were thrilled. Julian is poking around the kitchen gadgets, grinning like a kid. They said they've never seen a deal come together this fast. No strings, no inspection, just done. I drift over to the windows, the city spread out like a map I could touch. Did they mention other offers? Just one, Julian answers, grinning. Some finance guy who needed a loan. Gideon's face pops into my mind, how he'll look when he finds out someone snapped up his dream house. That thought warms me more than it should. We head up the floating staircase. Every step feels like a win. The master bedroom takes up the whole east wing, windows everywhere, a bathroom bigger than my first apartment. This is where you'll sleep, Julian says, voice soft. Your kingdom. I stand there, imagining my furniture, my art, my life right out in the open for once. You know what would be poetic? Julian leans in the doorway, eyes sparkling with mischief. A housewarming party. A party? I look at him, and the idea starts to grow. Not just any party, he says, waving his hands like he's conjuring something big, the reveal party. Invite everyone who matters in Atlanta. Family included. Let them wander these rooms, admire everything, and only then find out who owns it. I can already see it. Vivian running her hands over expensive fixtures, Harrison droning on about the craftsmanship, Gideon mentally crunching square footage and prices, none of them suspecting a thing. The perfect ambush. That's wicked. I can't help but grin. I love it. The next 3 weeks fly by in a frenzy. Interior designers fill the house, moving fast and precise, turning empty rooms into something that finally feels like mine. I micromanage everything, the exact gray for the living room, the right rug to feel under bare feet, light fixtures that bathe everything in the right glow. I point out pieces from my spring collection to the lead designer. These have to stand out. Put them everywhere. She nods. They'll get people talking. Between design meetings, I drop by my parents' house for coffee. Vivian calls more now, worried I've missed too many family dinners. As I slip toward the powder room, Gideon's voice leaks out from Harrison's study, sharp with frustration. Some anonymous buyer with cash swooped in and took it, he says. The West Pace's house. My house. Gone before I could even get the paperwork started. You'll find something better, Vivian says, always the family's buffer. I'd had my eye on that place for months, Gideon groans. It was perfect. Harrison steps in, calm but firm. I'll talk to my banker friends. We'll get you the next one. Something will turn up. I slip out, unnoticed, feeling a secret satisfaction. They have no idea. A week later, the invitations go out, heavy cream cardstock, simple envelopes. New West Pace's residence. Housewarming. Date, time, address. No host name. Julian and I go over the guest list, making sure every major business contact and every clueless family member is included. The next day, my phone lights up with Vivian's number. Leora, did you get one too? She asks right away. An invitation to a housewarming on West Paces? Must be Gideon's new colleague or something. I nearly laugh. Yes, I got it. Looks interesting. Oh, you should go, she says, that tone in her voice, like she's always trying to help me network. I'll be there, I say, careful with my words. You should come too. We already RSVP'd. Gideon thinks it's someone from that tech company downtown. Good chance to make connections. When I hang up, Julian catches my eye. Did they buy it? Hook, line, and sinker. Gideon thinks it's a networking gig. The night of the party, I stand in my new bedroom, checking my reflection. The black dress cost more than some people make in a month tonight. I need armor. My hair falls just right. Makeup is subtle but perfect. I look like someone who wins. Outside, the house glows, every line lit up. Inside, caterers set out beautiful food. Everything shines. Julian is the first to arrive, sharp in a custom suit. He lets out a low whistle. It's incredible, he says, taking a glass of champagne from a passing server. Even better than you described. We stand by the floating staircase, just the two of us, sharing a quiet moment before the show starts. He raises his glass, a silent toast to the woman who built all this while nobody paid attention. I meet his eyes, my throat tight. Tonight isn't about their approval. It's about the truth. The doorbell rings. The first guests stream in, business types, influencers, all trying to guess who owns the place. I blend in, just another face in the crowd. An hour later, I spot them, Harrison in front, Vivian clutching her bag, Gideon scanning the room like he's already calculating the numbers. They have no clue what's about to hit them. Whose house do you think this is? Vivian asks, loud enough for me to hear as she takes a glass of champagne. Gotta be tech money, right? Gideon says, running his hand along the marble countertop. Or maybe old Atlanta wealth. Place must have cost a fortune. They wander through the ground floor, tossing out comments on the furniture, the architecture, the view. I trail behind, just close enough to catch their reactions. Vivian stops in front of a vase that stands out on the console table. This looks like one of those things from Leora's website, she says, leaning in for a better look. Gideon barely glances at it, scoffing. Probably a knockoff. Real taste here. This is it. My moment. I slip away and climb the floating staircase, quiet, unnoticed. At the top, I can see the whole party below me. Julian catches my eye and gives our little signal, a half-raise of his glass. Then he taps it with a spoon, crystal ringing through the chatter. Ladies and gentlemen, he calls out. I think our host wants to say a few words. Heads turn and the room falls quiet as everyone looks up and spots me. I stand above them all, suddenly aware of the power in that height. I spot my family right away. Harrison's confusion. Vivian's surprise. Gideon's eyes narrowing, trying to work out why I'm about to speak. Welcome, everyone. My voice is steady. My family always worried about my future. They thought my hobby would never pay the bills. So I'm glad they're here to see exactly what that hobby bought. Welcome to my house. It's dead silent. In that hush, I hear Gideon's phone hit the marble, the sound sharp and clear. Harrison's face goes pale. Vivian's mouth opens and closes, but nothing comes out. Around them, people start to murmur and raise their glasses my way. On the far side, Julian grins at me, proud as ever. But really, it's my family's faces I notice. The moment they finally see me standing here, the truth impossible to ignore, $5.8 million of it right under my feet. For the first time, I'm not asking for their approval. I'm just showing them who I am, and honestly, it feels like freedom. The silence hangs for about 5 seconds, then someone laughs, nervous and sharp. I stay at the top of the stairs, watching the guests shift uncomfortably, their eyes flicking from my family to me. My mother recovers first, her social instincts kicking in. Leora, stop joking. Her voice is too light, almost brittle. Whose house is this, really? I come down 3 steps, still looking down at her. Mine, mother. Every square inch. Harrison pushes through the crowd, face red under his silver hair. He grabs my elbow, forcing a polite smile for everyone watching. What the hell do you think you're doing? He hisses, low and sharp. Is this some kind of sick joke? I pull my arm free with a small twist. No joke. No games. Just the truth. Gideon stands behind him, frozen, his face flipping through emotions, shock, disbelief, then calculation. He's already rethinking everything he thought he knew about his little sister. Around us, the party stumbles on. Servers keep weaving through with trays of champagne. People start whispering again. The chamber quartet I hired keeps playing, filling the silence with something almost delicate. $5.8 million, I say, just loud enough for the crowd nearby. Paid in cash. All from my hobby. A woman I know from a design magazine comes over, offering her champagne flute. Leora, this place is spectacular. I had no idea Everbloom Collective was doing so well. We featured your autumn collection last issue. Harrison goes even paler. Vivian clutches her pearls. Thank you, I tell her, raising my glass. It's been quite a year. More guests drift over, congratulating me, asking about the business. With every question, my family shrinks further away, their old story about me falling apart right in front of everyone. I excuse myself from a chat with a gallery owner to get a fresh drink. The gamble paid off. The public reveal means they can't pretend, can't brush this off. Gideon appears at the wine table, his smile stretched too tight, teeth white and clenched. He grips his bourbon so hard I half expect it to break. What game are you playing? He mutters, his voice low and mean. There's no way you bought this place. What did you do? Get some sugar daddy to bankroll it? I sip my champagne and meet his stare. Everbloom Collective pulled in $42 million last year, Gideon. I bought this place myself. Paid in cash. Watching his eyes go wide was worth every minute I spent keeping my success quiet. He just stood there, trying to do the math, probably running the numbers in his head. Then he tried to pivot, desperate to save face. Why didn't you come to me for investment advice? He tried to sound helpful. I could have helped you structure things better. Tax breaks. Offshore accounts. But he never cared about my business. Not once, all these years. Not a single question about what I was building. Why would I come to him now? The truth hit him hard. He didn't say another word, just slipped over to Harrison in the corner, heads together, whispering and shooting glances my way. That's when Vivian swooped in, wearing her best emergency smile, the same one she used when Gideon totaled the Lexus at 16 or when Dad's dinner talk got racist. Leora, darling. She air-kissed my cheek. What a lovely surprise. We always knew you were smart with money. Suddenly, the family history was getting a new edit. I sipped my champagne and kept quiet. Harrison joined us, arm around Vivian's waist, giving me that look. Quite the surprising success, he said, drawing out surprising like my win was some kind of fluke. Tell us about your revenue model. How do you scale so quickly without institutional investors? After 8 years, now they wanted details. 8 years too late. It's a long story, I told them, not giving anything away. We should have a family business dinner soon, Vivian said, her voice syrupy with the kind of respect they never showed before. Your father has contacts who might be interested in what you're doing. Maybe, I said, not promising a thing. The power shift was real. For once, They were chasing me. Across the room, Julian caught my eye, raising an eyebrow. I gave a tiny nod. All on track. He worked the room with the kind of skill you only pick up after years of these events, stepping in when I needed out of a conversation, always knowing when to rescue me. Later, near the bar, I caught a snippet between Harrison and Gideon. Temporary cash flow issues, Harrison muttered. If we can get bridge financing, Gideon cut him off. The Kensington investment went sideways. I told you it was high risk. I pretended to check out a painting, listening in. How bad? Harrison asked. Bad enough, Gideon said. We need to talk privately. I walked away before they spotted me, turning over this new information. Maybe Gideon wasn't the golden boy after all. His bravado always seemed bulletproof, but now? I wasn't so sure. Instead of confronting them, I held back. This little crack in their armor, this was power I hadn't counted on. As the night went on, I heard two analysts near the kitchen talking about Gideon's firm. Lost the Westridge account last month. Big hit. Not shocked, the other said. Last 3 investments bombed. I logged it away, keeping my hostess' smile intact as I made the rounds. When Julian brought me a fresh glass of champagne, his face said he'd picked up on the gossip too. Interesting party, he murmured, close to my ear. Your brother's firm isn't doing so hot. Missed their last 2 quarterly targets by double digits. I took the glass, our fingers brushing. Interesting, I said softly. Let's keep our eyes open. The family that used to write me off was now facing their own financial mess. I hadn't planned on having this much leverage, but sometimes the best opportunities show up out of nowhere. 3 months later, after a string of calculated moves, Everbloom Collective had shifted from a thriving company to a real market predator. I sat at my desk, Atlanta's skyline shining outside the window, going over the last acquisition reports with Julian. Supply chain acquisition complete, he said, sliding another folder over. That's 7 of Nova Haven's key suppliers now under our control. I nodded, taking it all in. Nova Haven had been a mess for weeks, late deliveries, quality slipping, the works. Every time we picked up another supplier, their operation got squeezed just a little tighter. No one could trace it back to us. This morning, the market analysts dropped their quarterly report. I handed my tablet over. They're calling Everbloom Collective the surprise powerhouse shaking up home goods e-commerce, I told Julian. He scrolled, a smile tugging at his mouth. Check this out, Nova Haven's pivots are getting wilder by the minute. They're panicking. Right then, a notification popped up on my desk. The warehouse deal was ready, final approval needed. Gideon had no clue we'd been quietly working to buy the same building Nova Haven ran their distribution from. One signature, and their physical center was ours too. Boardroom time, Julian asked, scooping up his stuff. I stood up, smoothed my charcoal suit. Let's finish this. In the glass-walled conference room, the exec team and lawyers waited. Everything felt sharp and tense. This wasn't regular business, it was the last move in a long game only Julian and I really got. The bankruptcy purchase agreement's ready, Ms. Voss, our lead counsel said, sliding the papers over. Once it's filed, you'll own all of Nova Haven's remaining assets. Roughly 12 cents on the dollar. I didn't hesitate. My signature went down easy. I'd been aiming for this moment for months. Congratulations, the lawyer said. You now own your largest competitor. The meeting wrapped with quiet handshakes. No speeches, no bubbly. This wasn't about celebrating. It was about winning. Back at my office, Julian handed me the latest industry mag, hot off the presses. The headline screamed, Nova Haven files Chapter 11, E-commerce darlings, spectacular failure. Julian pointed halfway down the page. They're ripping into the investment firm. Gideon's name comes up 3 times, and not in a good way. I skimmed the article. Words like catastrophic mismanagement and investor confidence shattered jumped out at me. Gideon Voss, the golden boy, my brother, was getting roasted by the same people who used to sing his praises. Your brother's firm is taking a hit, Julian said, watching my face. I set the magazine down, kept my tone flat. He gambled against me with other people's money. He lost. Those words just hung there. Not gloating. Not sorry. Just facts. My phone buzzed Vivian again. Seventh call today. I ignored it. All week, my mother's messages had gone from casual to desperate. Texts kept popping up, each one a little more frantic. I hit play on her latest voicemail, put it on speaker. Leora, please. We need to talk. It's serious. Julian raised an eyebrow. They're starting to figure it out. Looks like it. I pocketed my phone. What do you think? Should I even bother? He leaned against my desk, thinking it over. You don't owe them anything. But if you want closure, hear them out. I walked to the window and looked out over the city. I'd built this without them. Funny, now they wanted my attention. The irony stung a little. Let them come to me, I decided. My house, my terms. I set the meeting for Sunday at 5, right when family dinner used to start. Maybe it was petty, but subtlety wasn't the point anymore. That Sunday, I watched from the top of my stairs as the security system announced their arrival. Through the windows, I saw Harrison, shoulders slumped, Vivian, dabbing her eyes, Gideon, dragging behind, not meeting anyone's gaze. Hard to believe this was the same family dinner crowd from months ago. The power had flipped completely. I stayed put as they came in, silent and small beneath me. Come in, I said, my voice echoing off the marble. I turned and led them to the living room. No offer to take their coats, no drinks. I sat in a single chair, left them the sofa. The silence stretched out, heavy with everything unsaid. I waited. Harrison cleared his throat, hands knotted together. Leora, we need your help. I just raised an eyebrow. Gideon he stopped, looking at Vivian. She jumped in, her voice shaky. Gideon has lost everything. Everything? I asked, keeping my voice cool, professional. Harrison just nodded, face gone gray. Our savings too. We co-signed on his investment, remember? Our retirement is gone. Vivian leaned in, tears running down her face. We need help, Leora. We're on our own here. Just until we can stand up again. Gideon hadn't said a word. He stared at the floor, his fancy clothes rumpled, hair unwashed. I cut through the silence. So what was it, exactly, that you lost everything on? He flinched when I spoke, then muttered, voice barely above a whisper. Tech startup. E-commerce brand. You wouldn't get it. Nova Haven. I smiled, though it felt cold, like I was wearing a mask. Nova Haven, I repeated. My words sharp. That's been our biggest competitor for half a year. You know why they filed for bankruptcy last Tuesday? Because my company, Everbloom Collective, bought out their whole supply chain. You bet against me with our parents' money. And you lost. Harrison's jaw dropped. Vivian sobbed harder. Leora, please, she begged, voice cracking. We're family. Gideon finally looked up, face twisted with anger and shame, cheeks flushed. I stood, smoothed my slacks. That was enough. I walked to the front door, opened it wide, sunlight flooding the marble entry. Get off my property, I said, quiet but clear. And I shut the door on their stunned faces. 3 months later, late afternoon light streams in through the living room windows of my West Paces mansion, stretching gold across the marble floor. The house feels like it's really mine now, not just staged for buyers. There's a cashmere throw on the sectional, art I actually care about, fresh flowers in a vase I made myself. I lean over the coffee table, running my fingers through fabric swatches. Julian sits across from me, tablet in hand, looking relaxed even though we're talking business. Third quarter numbers beat projections by 17%, he says, sliding the tablet over. The sustainable housewares line is outselling everything else 2-to-1. I nod, let myself smile for real. Not the tight, practiced grin I used to wear at family gatherings, but something honest. People want authenticity. Who would have thought? I pick up a cream fabric sample, thumb tracing its weave. The room feels different now, no tension, no need to prove anything. Just calm. About the expansion, Julian says, flipping through slides. Found a manufacturer in North Carolina. Family business, 3 generations, great labor practices, all materials sourced nearby. I tilt my head, thinking. Costs go up, but our carbon footprint drops, and American-made means something to our buyers. Exactly, Julian says. We barely have to explain ourselves anymore. 3 years working together, and we're in sync. By the way, he adds, trying to sound casual but not quite pulling it off, did you see the industry award nomination? Design Guild. Visionary brand. About time, I say, and for once there's no bitterness. No urge to shrink or brush it off like I used to at my parents' table. My phone buzzes on the marble. Vivian Voss. The whole room seems to freeze. Julian watches, waiting. I glance at the screen, memories flickering, Harrison's blank stare, Vivian's tears, the door closing. 3 months ago, a call from her would have sent my heart racing. 6 months ago, I would have answered right away, desperate for her approval. Now, I just silence the call and flip my phone over. Let's use this fabric, I say, holding up the cream swatch like nothing happened. Julian nods, and that's enough. No explanation needed. We get back to work, talk about the future, a pop-up store in Chicago, teaming up with new artists, color palettes for winter. No one mentions the Vossas or Gideon's disaster. At one point, Julian cracks a joke about a competitor's clumsy rebrand, and I laugh, loud, real, echoing up to the high ceilings. I walk to the window and watch the gardens as evening comes on. My reflection looks back at me, shoulders down, eyes steady. The house finally feels like home. Not a statement. Not revenge. Just home. As dusk creeps in, warm light spills through the rooms, turning every sharp edge soft, making the place glow. Leora and Julian walk their senior designer to the door, last details for the spring collection finally out of the way. Dinner at 8? The designer asks, grinning. Marcus is bringing that chef he's seeing, apparently. We need a real verdict on his risotto. Leora just laughs. Wouldn't miss it, she says, comfortable and sure. Plans with friends, her chosen family, always feel easier than any Sunday dinner growing up ever did. Back inside, she spots her phone on the coffee table, 3 missed calls lighting up the screen. She doesn't bother to check. Just flips it face down and heads for the kitchen. She'd waited her whole life to say those words. Now she had. And here's the thing, freedom tastes so much better than revenge ever could.